guys, it's Barb here with Inspire Me 360, and I wanted to do a video today about the concept of paying it forward and just how utilizing this principle in your life can really just transform your mental health, make you feel super, happy in every moment, and how it actually changes the world, like in a very, very dynamic way. So I want to explain what this means and how it works. And you can definitely do it in little ways and you can do it in large ways, but I love to do it in as many ways as I possibly can every day. And what do we mean by paying it forward? Obviously, maybe some of you have seen the movie, I think it was like in the 2000s or in the 90s, where this little boy does a school project and he's just sending happiness out into the world, and how it kind of has this crazy ripple effect. But the thing about that is that it's really so incredibly true. So when we think about all of the collective consciousness and all of these other beings on planet Earth, we are continually affecting each other via our interconnectedness. Okay, so we are actually all connected, and everything we do in every moment is recalibrating the field. So imagine this, okay? You are interacting with somebody at school who, has had a very difficult life. Maybe they've been picked on a lot. Maybe they're going through some sort of, mental health issues or suicidal thoughts, something like that. And you take the time to befriend this person and make them feel uplifted and really show them in a powerful way that they're special and that they're worthy and that they're worth it. That one little action can change a life dramatically, okay? Just a simple kindness can have immense ripple effects that we don't even realize. So, for example, in this situation, maybe that individual was just so down that they were gonna go that day and end their life. And because you took the time to talk to them, to get excited about life with them, and maybe offer to hang out with them, you gave them in that moment a whole new lease on life, and you recalibrated everything just by your energy and your kindness. And if we all think about these little choice points all day long, every day, it's incredible how we can actually change the world. And this is a technique that, again, I have done pretty much my entire life, but I smile at everybody I can. I try to make eye contact with them. I try to tell them something about themselves, like they look beautiful today, or I love the dress that they're wearing. Just anything I can possibly do to make them feel good about themselves. And there's nothing false in it. Again, it's just utilizing your perspective to see incredible beauty in others and actually having the courage to tell them how beautiful and incredible you think they are. Because oftentimes we'll think that about another person, internally we'll think, wow, that person is fabulously talented, or, it's so incredible what they've been able to achieve, or, doesn't that individual look so nice, or don't they have a beautiful smile? But we don't actually say it to them, and without verbalizing these things, how are they going to know, right? And we really never know how much somebody else is carrying, okay? And I want to look at the other side of this as well. Let's say we're being very, very critical of others. We're putting others down. When we're speaking about a certain person, let's take that exact same person from the example. Let's say that they were getting picked on a lot, and there was something a little bit off about them to your consciousness or something like that, and you just decided to really verbalize that and make that person feel really, really small and just insignificant. And then another something else happened in their life, and it was just that particular day was the straw that broke the camel's back. And you verbalizing a sarcasm or a little nasty comment in their direction cause that individual to take their own life or to go out and hurt somebody else. So that's the thing about this whole concept of the ripple effect and paying it forward. We don't really know how much power we have within our words, and we really never know how much another being is carrying, in terms of what's happened in their lives. So this is why everything is so important at how how our actions and deeds are calibrating within the quantum field, within the divine matrix, this collective consciousness we're all a part of. And so to some degree, this is going to be, tethered into the karmic system. So when you're doing these positive things, you're creating positive karma, but that's not really why you should be doing them. And it shouldn't even be an element of should be doing them. It should just naturally emanate from you to want to create as much light and love and inspiration in others with every second of your being possibly that can, pour out from you, okay? And having this gift, it's transformative. So again, in any given day, I'm always thinking like, what individual can I help? Who can I grab somebody's groceries? Can I talk to somebody on the street and hear a little bit about their story? How can my life be an extension or a sentiment of divine love? And I'm not always good at it. There's definitely times that I fall short or I'll have a grumpy day, but most of the time, even when you do, again, perhaps make a ripple effect of something a little bit negative or grumpy within the field, you can always go back and correct it. So you can always go back and thank the other person for a job well done, or lift them up in some way, or apologize. Like, apologies go so incredibly far to building bridges. So if you have done something where it has potentially spidered out some sort of an action of hatefulness or an action of negativity, or something that might bring another person down or cause them to feel uncomfortable or unworthy, making sure that you also pay attention to that within your own auric field and what you're emanating, and do your due diligence and go back and fix it. Because again, those moments where we go back and fix our mistakes and we actually present ourselves in a kinder, better way, again, have huge implications for the collective consciousness. So let's circle back to this idea of paying it forward. So what does that look like, and how can we do it, and how frequently should we be doing this kind of pay it forward action? Now, for myself, I try to do it as much as possible with my students, with my staff, by taking time to kind of lift them up. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult because being a boss, I also have to guide them and try to motivate them to work. And there's some element of tough love in there too. There's times when I have to be a boss and I have to create structure, and I have to, say, you got to do your job. But with that, you can also take the opportunity to, again, really create dynamic experiences for the people that you interact with. Events, special dinners, recognition for them, always telling them thank you, always reminding them how amazing and how wonderful they are. And you might not be a boss, but maybe you're an employee. Maybe you're somebody that can just go throughout the workplace and let each and every person you interact with know how fabulous they are, what a great job they're doing. People love recognition. People love to feel valued, and they love to feel that you see them, that you see their worth and what they're contributing. And just those words, saying those words to people or writing those words to people are so incredibly powerful, and they really do have a lot of magnetism in terms of helping others around our immediate circle feel a sort of safety in the world and feel like they are part of something, that they're grounded and they're loved. Now, when we look at the world at large, when you're out and about, when you're in the public, really being bright and cheerful and lovely to each and every person you walk by, putting a big smile on your face, emanating this field of joy and happiness, walking by somebody that's a street person and taking the time to talk to them, smile at them, treat them like a human being. The more that you exude human emotion, compassion, unconditional love to others, is how we, moment by moment create a better world. And it's these little tiny acts that have huge implications in terms of the divine matrix and the quantum field. So getting used to operating this way will bring you as well a tremendous amount of joy. And, depending on your resources, I'm not saying that you have to, give everything you have, but when you do have access to resources, there's some amazing things that you can do. I remember just some examples of things that I've done that, again, really filled my heart, but really also, I think, had effect on others, So I've put together, many charity events and fundraisers where 100% of the proceeds were donated to the families. And bringing people together for those kind of experiences opens their minds. There was, a wonderful little girl that was, she's now passed away. She was dying of brain cancer, but we created this concert for her, and she was a little cheerleader, and we had all of the cheer team come up, in a big concert venue, and a really amazing singing talent was up on stage, and it was kind of a dream for her. And she, in that moment, felt so alive, and she touched so many lives in having that experience. The ripple effect was just incredible. Even though, again, she passed away, it was an opportunity for all of us to share in this collective loving energy. And more things that we were able to do were, having a song that she wrote being produced, and played on the radio, something that at the end of her life was super special and super special for her family. And one of her last requests was a box of puppies. So we went to a local animal shelter, and we got puppies of every different kind and brought them to her. Just little things like, when my grandma was passing away, having a family come and sing for her, bringing little children, and they had their violins and their beautiful singing voices. They were people from some of my friends that were first from a specific church. But again, it was just those small things that, again, my grandma came alive in those moments. Another example is my aunt, who has also passed away. We took her on this last kind of adventure up to the Banff Springs Hotel, and she had, again, really never even gotten out of bed for more than an hour. She was having so much trouble breathing, and I did her makeup. I made her look like a princess, and we took her to the beautiful castle of the Banff Springs Hotel. It looks like a castle, and for that entire night, it was like she turned into a teenager. She got her life force back, and she was just living her best life in that moment. And the thing is, it's those small actions that make life worth living and really transform the lives of others. Another example is I've given a lot of free courses away to very deserving individuals where I know they can't afford to take the trainings, but this is going to be impactful for their lives. It's going to change their lives. And again, it's like these small things that we can do that we really don't realize how it can even change somebody else's mindset about the world being a beautiful and safe place. So when we think about paying it forward, it can be as simple as buying a cup of coffee for somebody on the street. It can be as simple as taking the time to spend with your child or your children and really showing them that you love them and you value them and you think that they're special. A child that feels the love of a parent and feels that emanation of their parent being proud of them, they're going to go on and do great things. You're building a beautiful foundation by showing up, for your family in this way. And so often in modern life, I feel like people put money and things and status above the time that they can spend with the people that they love. And it's just, we just need to do a bit of a flip of our thinking and really realize that it is the small things, the big things, the things we do together that matter. It's not the selfies that we take or the car we drive or the house we live in. It's the way that we show up in our lives that transforms our very existence. And abundance will flow where joy exists. When we're joyful, when we feel safe, when we feel healed and protected, things just unfold in incredible ways, and incredible miracles start to happen just from this paying it forward attitude. Really actually has the power to heal bodies, to heal minds. When people feel like there's something worth living for, and like the world is actually okay, and everything that we see in the media, there's so much negativity, there's so much of this darkness and division, and one culture being pitted against another culture, and politicians saying the wrong thing, and political groups trying to call each other out, and even other religions really butting up against each other, and it's just not necessary. This is how we tear our world apart. And so we have to be wise enough to see that for what it is, turn it off, and cycle back and return back to the core of what love is, and compassion is, and what a family is, okay? Because it's not about the fancy car we drive. It's not about the big house that we live in or the clothes that we're wearing. It's about how we are showing up for each other in each and every moment, and how we are expressing and illuminating the love that's within our hearts to the external world. And again, it's every small action. So I don't want to go over and over this, but I just really want to inspire within you this movement away from sarcasm, this movement away from cutting comments that maybe they're wrapped in a little bit of humor, but you never know where somebody is, and how hurtful that could be to somebody. I remember somebody making a comment to me about being a cheap little thing, because I had an inexpensive dress that I had purchased, and what they didn't realize is, coming from an upbringing of a lot of poverty, and often having to go to the Salvation Army or Value Village to buy my clothes, and being made fun of a lot in school, that comment hurt me really deeply. And for them, they may not have realized that was a hurtful comment, because it was just sarcastic, and in the moment they thought that was really funny. And they had maybe come from a place where they had abundance, and they didn't have to ever feel like they were coming from poverty, or ever feel like they were from the wrong side of the tracks. But for somebody like myself, where maybe I had grown up in some pretty difficult situations, that one sarcastic comment made me think that they thought I was not enough, or cheap, or in some way I didn't understand why it was being said to me, and it really hurt me for a really long time. And that's why, again, we never really realize the power and gravity of our words, of the spoken word, and how if somebody in our presence is a little bit wounded, or they've gone through trauma or abuse, or maybe a difficult upbringing, a cutting comment can do a lot of damage. It really can. It can break trust so quickly. We don't realize these things. So that's why it's so very important that when we're speaking to others, that we take the time to say beautiful things to them, that we tell them, how incredible they are, how beautiful they are, how proud we are of them. There's nothing more magical than somebody saying to you, wow, I'm so proud of who you are. I think you're such an incredible person. Like, you are very special to me. When we hear these kinds of words, we actually feel uplifted, and we can be that mechanism of paying it forward simply through our words. We don't have to give anything, monetary. We don't have to, if we don't have the means, it's just by our words, and then our words and our actions. So taking the time to pay attention to the people around us, taking time to hold space for what they're saying and who they are, and that we care enough to see them, we care enough to hold space for whatever they're going through. This is a huge element of paying it forward, and being compassionate, and being kind, and having an overcritical element to our being. If we're really critical of others, and gossiping about them and that kind of thing, it does so much damage in the divine matrix. It does so much damage in the field. We're really oftentimes not aware of this. It's kind of that bully mentality, but it's just something that we have to correct within our humanness. Sorry, I was sitting on my foot there, and my foot completely fell asleep, so I have to kind of shake it out. But yeah, so that's kind of the end of this video. It's a happy little video heading into Friday. I'm gonna go get myself a good glass of wine and head to a pub and enjoy the rest of my week, and wishing you all a beautiful start to your weekend, and hopefully you will take the time to be a little bit better, a little bit brighter, and a little bit more beautiful to each and every person you meet. And also remember to be that for yourself as well. Be your own cheerleader, love yourself, and love others. Okay guys, have a great weekend. With Inspire Me 360, and today what I wanted to chat a little bit about is the concept of how life always brings towards you, through the law of attraction, what you need in all aspects. So I love the phrase, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And this is so incredibly true. And what we have to start to understand is that everything in life is our teacher, and we are teaching it as well. So we are always in every moment becoming the teacher and also the student in and of the same moment, because any interaction we have is always an exchange. It's an exchange of energy, it's an exchange of information. And at our very core, we are all only an emanation of energy. Our soul frequency is an energetic state. So in all ways, in all layers, we are always learning from each and every individual interaction and from each individual event that is transpiring throughout our days. And when you start to adopt this understanding, you realize that everything in every moment of your life is this continual learning cycle, and all lessons are different depending on the stage that you're at. So let's say you are kind of at a low calibration, and you're finding that you have a lot of traumatic experiences, maybe you're having a lot of health issues, financial issues, and everything that is teaching you is at a very survival level. So sort of that lower echelon of vibrational knowing, okay? The only way through the mechanism of magnetism, because again, we magnetize towards ourselves everything that we are. So where we are vibrating inside of ourselves, or the frequency that we're holding, is what is going to be pulled into our external experience, okay? And if we want to ascend above that, or to raise our experience, we have to change the dynamic of what is going on inside us. Now, how do we do that? How do we change our external reality by looking at our internal reality? Well, we look at our thoughts. We look at what we're thinking about, how we're judging others, and what is the predominant environment of our mental constitution in any given day. And when we're living from a very unconscious state, where there's no evaluation about how we're acting and how we're thinking, then there is very little spiritual progress. And you will have years, if not lifetimes, that will out-manifest in a very similar fashion. You'll find that you are falling in the same hole over and over and over. It will be a similar situation, but different people mirroring it back to you. And again, eventually, it is the hope of the universe, which is always trying to teach us, the quantum field, the divine intelligence, that we will get tired of falling in that same mental trap. and we will do some sort of a deeper dive into our own consciousness and say, if this scenario keeps cropping up for me, what is it within myself that is calling this external reality towards me? What do I need to heal? What do I need to fix? And what do I need to recalibrate within my own body, mind, spirit complex that is going to rid myself once and for all of this distortion? And again, it has to be a desire. You have to want to do a deep dive or some real consideration into your own beingness to make this transition. If you are 100% existing in an asleep state, and being very asleep means being very ego-based, seeing things from, again, either a victim mentality or an attack mentality. So that victim mentality is going to be, life is happening to me. I have no control. It's always bad news for me. It's always bad luck. Nothing great ever happens to me. Oh no, this is happening again. Okay, if we are falling into this rabbit hole of negative victim mentality thinking, we're not going to see anything positive other than more negativity manifest for us to it's mirroring back our core ideological frequency. And if we play the victim, we are going to be the victim. If all we think about and see ourselves as is a victim, then that's what's going to play out in the stage of our three-dimensional reality. And that's, again, a shade of the egoic mind. Now, the other side of ego is a very pompous, prideful, attack type of mechanism or type of thinking. This is kind of a fuck the world kind of thinking. If the world's not going to show me the out manifestation of what I want to see, then I am going to bend the world with my will. I am going to attack it. I am going to speak against it. I'm going to be that vigilante, okay? It's not wrong to play a victim or to experience the role of a victim. And it's not wrong to be the vigilante or to experience the role of the warrior, okay? Both of those ideological lenses are both mechanisms of learning of beingness. So I want to be clear on this. But there is a state of consciousness that exists beyond the egoic expression of mind. And that is when we drop into this idea of really analyzing the self. If we really want to change our outer reality, we really have to do a deep dive into the workings of our inner labyrinth, the labyrinth of the mind, okay? And any spiritual book, if you really read it and you look at it from a metaphoric standpoint, it's speaking about the journey of the mind through metaphorical stories, okay? And it's asking us to look within, not to attack without, not to apply, countless judgments on the world. It's not our job to judge the world, okay? The world is always in a state of recalibration. The collective consciousness is always recalibrating based on what's happening with our collective thought forms. And the way that we create massive waves of change within that mental matrix is to go within, is to seek to eradicate distortions within the self. And we do that through utilizing our mirrors. So the teachers around us that come into our everyday life, that allow us to act out our worst expression of ourselves and mirror it back to us. This is how we learn, because then we sit there and say, how did I act in this given situation? Was I the best version of myself? Could have I done this in a more compassionate way? Could have I been more temperate? Could have I had a more graceful approach? But without asking these deep questions of ourselves, we can transcend nothing. Without really nailing ourselves to the cross of our own internal investigation, we will not see progress. And that's the hardest lesson of all to learn, is that solitary journey, in a sense. You really have to be willing to look at your own shortfalls and your own elements of shadow and distortion. And when you see yourself acting from a lower frequency or a lower mind, you have to at least try to correct it, or put practices in place that are going to elevate you so that you can, again, magnetize yourself towards a higher and higher expression of manifestation and a higher and higher viewpoint of the totality of all that is. And this is difficult. I am not saying by any stretch of the imagination that this is easy. It is a lifelong journey, and it is a never-ending journey, okay? Because once you end this lifetime, you're going to incarnate into another lifetime, another type of life. It might be more of an energetic or light body that you inhabit. It might be a different type of planetary system or solar system. But nonetheless, you are never going to be in a state of nothingness, okay? Energy is always present. It's always in fluctuation, and you are energy. And once you understand that, and once you understand that the goal of living on Earth is to understand your own energy and to learn how to control your energy and control the signals that you are sending out, so your vibration, and calibrate that to the highest expression of your being, which is unconditional love and non-judgment, you will see a greater and greater speed at which your desires out-manifest. And this happens because, again, as you raise your consciousness, as you ascend that ladder and become in communion, you commune with that divine essence, okay, that source energy, you start to become one with it, and you start to create with it. And then the expressions of your mind become more and more beautifully calibrated to healing, the preservation of love, of life and love, and the protection of all life, okay? This is why, to a great degree, a lot of spiritual masters and teachers are, to, you know, in a broad sense, are also vegetarian, because once you start to love all life in this unconditional way, you can see a very direct correlation between not sacrificing another's life, or not sacrificing an animal's life for your own nutrition, that there are more gentle ways to express the needs that you have as a body, okay? Because the body, the flesh, has needs, okay? It has wants. It wants to feed itself. It wants to eat. It wants to engage in all of the pleasures of existing in a lifetime. But as we ascend, as we call our consciousness to a higher level of expression, we start to make what is really not sacrifices, or what are really not sacrifices, but we start to make adjustments within our daily practices that calibrate with the highest expression of unconditional love and protection of all life, okay? Every rock, every tree, every emanation of the divine creation, we start to protect it, and we start to protect it with everything that we are. And part of that protection mechanism is grounding ourselves in a grace and a state of grace that attacks none, that destroys none, and is peaceful in all we do. And I'm going to fall back into an example of the teachings of Gandhi. He was a very, very incredible consciousness. He had the ability to create massive amounts of change through peaceful protest. He showed the world that through taking no violent action, we can change things. And again, this is the highest expression of utilizing what you are, your voice, your body, your the emanation of love, to create waves of change through the lack of attack, through the lack of need of violence. And this is the highest expression of how a human life can out-manifest here in the third dimension. Okay, I'm gonna wrap up this video. I know that's a lot to digest, and I did kind of go on a little bit of a rant there, but again, it's because I'm so passionate about teaching this material, about teaching unconditional love and non-judgment, and the fact that there is so much to be said by just holding reverence for all life and protecting all life, and what we can really create here on planet Earth when we exist in this way. So, wishing you all a beautiful weekend, and hopefully the teachers that you need within your life will appear. Namaste. Today about the mechanism of letting go, and how starting to cultivate kind of a neutrality within your own consciousness can really help to alleviate suffering, and can really actually move you into a high vibrational state, whether you realize it or not. When we're really focused on that forcing, controlling kind of energy, we're residing in a very low vibrational state, and it becomes this mechanism of matter trying to change matter, and it's a very slow process, and it can be a very frustrating process. This is also the level of consciousness where we see greed, anger, frustration, guilt, shame, hatred, any of these really low vibrational thought forms or emotional states really prevent us from, reaching an enlightened state of thinking. But it also, in terms of manifesting our true desires or the life that we actually want, it really slows down the process. And I want to explain this a little bit. So essentially, it's when we let go of almost everything that we start to be really, really free. So let's kind of utilize an example here. Let's say that you really wanted to financially manifest a certain level. You really want to get to that $1 million mark, and that's all you think about, and you're just working super hard, and you're fixated on that dollar amount or the money that you have to make, any of these kind of things. You're also creating within yourself this vortex of a lot of stress, essentially this compounding stress that you're layering on your consciousness, because you have such a directed desire towards the accumulation of wealth. You feel that it's attached to your identity, that you won't be able to be happy with living and life until you've achieved this $1 million mark or whatever it is. And I'm using this as an example. But what happens when we exist in this way is that we become very attached to that particular outcome, and then we can get very frustrated. So we can be looking at our lives, looking at timelines, saying we haven't achieved what we want to achieve yet in our lives. And as we do this, and as we have this very static desire that we feel it must manifest for us to achieve any type of joy or happiness, which is essentially enlightenment, we're really putting ourselves actually into a very stagnant state, and we're really not helping the law of attraction or the law of creation, because we're pigeonholing ourselves to a certain outcome. Okay, another example would be, let's say you want to manifest a certain type of life partner, and you're really stuck on it being maybe a particular person. Maybe you get yourself over fixated on an end result with one particular person, and then again, it's the material world or a body, a human being trying to influence another human being, but really not being so not in your flow state. It's such a rigid desire that, again, you can really get yourself super frustrated by trying to make something happen with a particular person, okay? And that's where, again, you have to kind of let go. This whole process of manifestation is that learning to be okay with whatever is coming into your environment, and to really drop the stress, stop carrying the stress, stop carrying the worry. You know, again, when we're really laser focused towards a certain target, it can be a good thing to have goals. I'm not saying don't have goals, but when we're laser focused towards those goals in a way that is very rigid, it creates a very kind of almost choking stress that is all pervading in our lives, because we have sort of these blinders on and we don't often see other opportunities or other things. And we also, what we can do if we're really rigid about a certain outcome, we actually prevent it from happening in a way that is very mysterious and beautiful and gentle. Because again, nature and the quantum field, or you know, the divine intelligence, its mechanism or its way of moving through our life is a very gentle way. It's a very gentle, humble way. Now, there's times when that field will create a lot of change very rapidly, and that's not a bad thing. But it's really, this journey is one in which we have to soften our consciousness. We have to be able to be okay with not knowing the outcome, not knowing 10 steps ahead, and having and residing in a place of trust. Because remember, everything is vibration, everything is energy and vibration and frequency in terms of the universe. And because we are a part of that energy, a part of that frequency, we need to be really cognizant about where we're sitting on the spectrum. And as we raise our vibration up, as we move towards enlightenment, what happens is an expansion. And this expansion of our consciousness and of our beingness will actually look like a loosening of our requirements of life. We will start to reside in a flow state where we are not expectant of anything. Because again, being super expectant or wanting a certain outcome, or being frustrated that life isn't giving us what we want when we want it, that's a very constrictive mindset, and it doesn't help us. I mean, it won't magnetize us towards getting those wonderful gifts that God and the universe have in store for us. It creates this lower vibrational resonance within our being, and the only thing that will be drawn into that lower vibrational resonance is a lot of stress, a lot of really hard battles, because that's what we're emanating. We're emanating that stress. So we have to get to a point where we loosen the reins on being so laser focused on specific outcomes, okay? Now, there's another layer to this, okay? That doesn't mean that essentially you open up the barn gates and let, you know, anybody come and steal your horses because everything is just relaxed and, you know, who really cares what happens? That's not what I'm talking about. You still take really directed action each and every day of your life, but you do it with a different sense behind it. So you're doing what you think is the best, I guess, out expression of doership but in a very gentle way. You're not expecting anything other than the fact that you're proud of your own hard work. And in the non-expectation, you're basically giving your faith, your trust to the universe. And as we move up that scale towards faith and trust and have this sort of humble way about the out expression of our beingness, what is drawn towards us are really beautiful, incredible surprises that come effortlessly. So they are just going to start to manifest due to this high vibrational state. And again, when we are vibrating at a very high state, what does that look like? It's going to look like a very peaceful, calm, non-argumentative, non-expectant, relaxed human, that is emanating a tremendous amount of giving, that's emanating a tremendous amount of love and joy. You're going to tend to be less argumentative. You sort of go with the flow. Now, the other thing that we have to really look at when we are understanding how to move our consciousness up the scale towards unconditional love would be to look at what triggers us. So I know I've talked about triggers before, but in terms of really letting go and really getting into the flow state, this is something that we can utilize with what might actually be affecting us. Now, again, when we're triggered, we're essentially giving away our power, okay? We hold a certain amount of power within our being, and we're the most powerful when we are the most calm and peaceful, because again, we are holding that state of peace and grace inside of ourselves. When we lose our power is when we get triggered. So if the things that other people around us are doing become very frustrating and stressful, and it kind of takes us into this negative vortex, we really have to start to pay attention to what it is that triggered us and why did it trigger us? What was the why behind the trigger? So a lot of times it's going to be, certain insecurities, abandonment issues can be, one of the things that can trigger people. Things like, the ego wants attention. So if it's not getting a certain amount of attention and limelight, it can get triggered. Things, that can trigger us would be people that are maybe demanding too much of us, taking too much. We can get triggered by feeling overwhelmed by circumstances in life, and that can be a trigger. There's pretty much unlimited triggers. But if you find that you are getting triggered often, you definitely need to look at why that is. And usually it is because you're really pigeonholing yourself into a certain outcome, and you're very rigid in that. Because when you're in a flow state and when you're in a joyous, unconditionally loving flow state, it's really difficult to get triggered, because again, you're just happy with whatever you see around you. And even if, there's things around you that you don't deem the highest expression of others' behavior, or maybe what you want to, how you thought the day would plan or go in according to plan, or whatever it may be. When we're thinking in this way, when we are getting triggered in this way, we stop looking for the little miracles. And what I learned a long time ago, through my parents getting divorced and a lot of, just really kind of, back then I would have called them turbulent times in my life. What I actually realized was there was a tremendous amount of growth that happened from the chaos that was happening around me. And so looking back on that, it was absolutely tremendously a gift, but I didn't at that time see it as a gift. And had I been in more of a flow state, I would have realized that I'm integrating a ton of lessons, I'm building a lot of character, and just because, I'm not getting the perfect house or whatever it is, when I was 18 years old, or the things that I thought that I wanted, didn't mean that what was expressing itself at that time in my life wasn't actually lining me up for grander and grander manifestations. So now I've learned to trust the universe, because what I've realized is that anything that comes up in my life that's a little bit uncomfortable, or even a lot uncomfortable, has always seemed to prepare me for something that was upcoming that I really needed that skill. And so when we start to relax into this sort of trustful state and realize that, hey, if I had to run back to my house to get the keys, because I forgot them, I was running around and, didn't grab the keys to the cabin in the morning, whatever it was, I've started, and I've done this for many years, and really that's what I feel helped me in terms of my manifestation, was that I always saw what other people would see as a negative as a positive, and I got really good at turning it around. So if I left my keys and it took me a little bit longer to get to work, I'd be like, oh, that's just the universe protecting me. Maybe I would have ran a red light by accident, and I would have gotten in a car accident. I always try to see that, or express it through my own consciousness, that everything that's being done in any given period of the day is being done for my highest good. And even if I don't understand it, particularly at that time, I continually drop back into the understanding that it's for my greater good. And then I want to talk a little bit about allowing others to take your power away specifically. So if you feel triggered by anybody that's in your life, or if there's sort of a constant group of individuals or individual that has the capacity to trigger you, first of all, it's probably a really good idea to try to dissect why that individual is so triggering to you. Is there some sort of a mirroring effect about that person? Is it something about that person that maybe you need to make an adjustment within yourself, because that energy actually resides in you and you're seeing the reflection of it? Or are you just, again, really dropping down into that lower vibrational state of ego? And of course, ego is that part of us that really likes to control. Ego is always going to want to know every part, the outcomes, and be really rigid in its thinking. And when it deals with others, again, it's usually fairly abrasive, right? We've all heard the term pride goeth before the fall. That's the ego. The ego's always going to puff itself up and be kind of a pain in the ass, and it will cause us to be triggered. So again, really realizing that we do not want to give our power away to others. We don't want others to have that control over us, that they could trigger us into a state where we're not happy, where we're essentially lowering our vibration. We're not drawing and magnetizing the things we want for our lives towards us. And again, don't blame that other person. Like if you're triggered by them, you can't really blame them for that. But you definitely, if you feel like a certain individual does tend to trigger you a lot, it is probably better for you to move away from a lot of dealings with that person until you can really heal that part within yourself. And so let's talk about how we can heal some of these triggers. First of all, affirmations are really huge. So it takes about 21 to 30 days to change parts of your subconscious. So listening to subliminals, listening to affirmations daily or a couple times daily is a great way to gently affect the subconscious mind. I've done it several different times in my life when I've gone through stressful periods of time, where I just do quiet meditations, self-hypnosis, and again, affirmations, because it just makes you feel good to hear really amazing words about yourself. And when you start to lift your vibration in this way, you tend to get triggered a lot less. Then there is the element of practice. So if you want to get good at anything, well, face your fears. So go into environments and be around people that tend to trigger you, okay, instead of running away. Because when we run away, we give that other person the power over us. So put yourself in situations where you would traditionally get triggered and really work on softening your energy and not responding to the things that would normally trigger your ego. And as you practice this more and more and more, you'll find that you become a very solid, peaceful, grounded person. Now, of course, there's still going to be things that crop up that will frustrate you and will essentially piss you off. But the more that we work on it, again, the more we're able to go into any environment without being triggered, okay? And this is what the whole mechanism of letting go is, okay? A lot of people say, let go and let God. That's one of my favorite sayings to myself, is just, trust in the divine plan, trust that everything is always working out. And if you do, again, tend to get a little bit stressed or triggered, to remind yourself, to allow yourself to be in it, because we can't all be, monks meditating all day long. But if we're constantly reminding ourselves of the fact that we want to move towards this state of joy and peace and harmony within ourselves, and we're constantly working on the things that trigger us, we're going to be moving, whether we like it or not, up into the higher levels of consciousness. And that's what it's all about. That's what our journey here to planet Earth is all about. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. And hopefully you're gonna have a very trigger-free weekend, blissful weekend. And again, thanks for joining me with Inspire Me 360.